Right, took a bit of doing, but basically one of the lead wires had basically burnt off of this, so what I've managed to do is just take one winding off the voice coil, which isn't ideal, but there's a lot of them on there, and then solder it all back up. So I think we've saved this tweeter. So this one's measuring, its DC resistance is 6.4 now. So yeah, all soldered up. Let's go and check the other one. Right, our other one is 6.1, which is yeah, quite interesting. It should be a little bit higher as we've taken one turn off of that, but yeah, I'll stick the signal generator on it, and hopefully it's okay. So we might have just rescued that. Yeah, so I'm on the 1000 Hertz scale, starting at 3K. Yeah, I'll call that a win, I think. Right, so this is one of the crossovers done. New capacitors on everything, new resistors, little poly cap upgrade on the tweeter circuit, just to make that sparkle a bit more, but still keeping bipolar electrolytics on the mid-range and the woofer circuit, because that's what works. So this one is done, and I've done my plug delete. So we've got our positive and negative in, positive and negative to our woofer, positive and negative to our mid, positive and negative to our tweeter. So there we go, all soldered up, lovely jubbly. So we do the other one now, and yeah, these are ready to go back in. So just get the old components off the board, Miss Ford. Okay. Right, so they're all off. So get these removed and then clean it all up. I got a real stinker of a cold at the moment. Ugh. The little girls brought it home. So much going round at the moment. And I think all of our immune systems are a bit lacking, having been locked down for so long. It hasn't helped. Right, so that's all the muck taken off. So what I do now, like I always do, is just pilot drill out all of the holes for the components, and then we can start soldering them back in. Right, that's all the holes drilled out. So as I've mentioned many a time before, do one crossover at a time so you don't lose what values go where. So I'll keep my other one that I've done now as a reference and just start picking through it. So we got a 60 here, which is on our woofer circuit. And the woofer on this is third order. So 2 inductors and 1 capacitor. Yeah, so as part of this we're also deleting the plug that goes in here, which makes quite a difference in my opinion, and replacing the wire with decent stuff as well. Right, so that's our 60 in for the woofer. Address that in a bit. Been quite lucky with this because the holes where the cable ties go through allow me to get my new wires in and soldered underneath for our lead wires going out to our drivers, so it's pretty good really. Right, so we got a 16 that goes in here, so I'm making that up with 2 8s because a 16 is nigh on impossible to get. 8 and an 8, getting the same way round as the other. Push the legs out the way. Go. I find with these you have to use your iron pretty hot because these boards or these big traces really sink out the heat. So yeah, you have to run your iron quite warm. There's an annoying little bit there where they get so close together, the traces, so I just want to make sure that no solder gets between them, which it hasn't. That's good. Right, so next we've got a 6 that goes in there. This is also part of the mid circuit. Yeah, so it's been quite an interesting week. Lots of new projects coming up, new speakers coming in for repair, so that's good. Had lots of inquiries about little repairs and things. Right, so we got a 3.3 here in the tweeter circuit. I'm using a poly, and we also got an 8 that goes in there, so I'm using poly caps on the tweeter circuit because I find that works well. With these speakers, polys don't work on the mid circuit or the woofer. Yeah, it just makes them shouty and horrible. They weren't voiced with those, so this seems to work well. Okay, there we go. So now we'll put our, is it an 8 in there? So offer it up. Right, so that's our 8 in. So next to that we have a 1.5 microfarad, and this is part of the tweeter circuit as well. In fact, this is probably some form of impedance correction, I think, because it's on the output of the tweeter circuit with a resistor down to ground, so it's possibly correcting an impedance problem at a certain frequency. It might be to take a lump out of the tweeter somewhere. I'm not really looking at it that much in depth. Right. Okay, so that's in there as well now. So now we just need to sort this little bit out. So in the middle here we have a 12. I don't have a 12, I just don't seem to be able to find one at the moment. So I'm using a 10 and a 2, which is absolutely fine. Okay, and then we have 2 resistors next to it. Now I'm using something a bit high powered for these because the other ones were scorched. And this cap here, so that one there, was also burnt out. And looking on the internet at pictures of these crossovers, I've seen a lot which have been heat damaged, so I can understand why that fuse is in circuit on the tweeter. There's obviously shunting down the output of the tweeter to get rid of this impedance problem or correct a lump in the frequency response. Yeah, sinks out a bit of power really, so things get hot. It doesn't take long to whack them in there. Right, so that's all our caps and resistors done. Lovely jubbly. So next we'll add in our new lead wires. Going a decent blob on that. Right, so that's the last new wire in, which is for the tweeter. So next thing is to hot glue all these wires down where they come through, just so if they waggle around it takes the strain off the solder joint. So it's not going to pull it off or anything like that. Mind you, once they're in, put back in the speaker, they won't move around. But yeah, it's just a bit neat and tidy. Right, glue some of these bits and pieces down. Hot glue, baby, yeah. Hot glue, baby, yeah. The only downside with hot glue is the little bits of cobweb that comes off it when you remove the glue gun. That's why I sort of scratch it on the board to stop that happening. Not much you can do about it really. Right, so there we go, that's the two boards done. So new components, sympathetic to the original design, little tweeter upgrade, pull out a bit more clarity and a bit more air. Yep, new wire, plug delete, which gets rid of that steel wire. Nice high purity copper, directly soldered, no plugs. These will be directly soldered to the drivers. Much better than crimp push fit connections. So yeah, good to go on the crossovers. Right, so with these I've gone around them with a bit of wood filler. I don't know whether it's going to make a huge amount of difference. It'll probably vibrate out with the sander. Yeah, so what I need to do is black this line. And then spray the front and back baffles before I sand. Yeah, so let's paint that line up. So I'm just going to run round it with some gloss black, or satin black I should say, just with a brush. Won't matter if I go over, in fact I want to go over the edges, and then the sander will give us a nice sharp line. And it's not too bad anyway at the moment. I doubt I'm going to need too much to do with it. So when that gets sprayed, when that gets sanded, where we've gone over the edges, that'll just flatten off back down to the wood or the veneer and give us a really sharp line. So yeah, despite the state of these cabinets, I'm hoping they're going to come up quite well. I'm pretty sure they will. Obviously they're going to have nicks and scratches and stuff, but we'll try and feather most of those out, and then when they're oiled up, I think we'll be pretty good. What I often do as well, if I have gone through the veneer, or the veneer is, you know, kind of a bit too far gone and we are hitting the chipboard, then I'll oil it with something darker, and that will stain the chipboard underneath as well as the veneer, and that tends to work pretty well. So one thing I do want to do while I'm here is just give these drivers a bit of a clean up. They're not too bad really. Okay, a bit better. You really don't need much of this rubber conditioner at all. Need a little bit more than that though. So this keeps the rubber supple and also gives it a good clean as well. But these are in very good condition. No splits or rips or anything. Yep, okay. So the woofers are a bit dusty and dirty, and in fact I've noticed that if you look at the magnet on that one and you look at the magnet on that one, they're different. So I'm pretty sure that they've probably been back to Celestion at some point for repair. Right, I need to be a bit careful with this one, with the woofers, that I don't really get this on the paper because it will stain through. So what I like to do with drivers, especially in these older speakers, is turn them around 180 degrees just to counteract any cone sag that might be happening. But annoyingly, these have a Celestion badge or mark, a stamp there. So if I turn that upside down, it's going to be blatantly obvious, which is a bit annoying really. So yeah, that one's done. So yeah, both tweeters are good. I obviously repaired this one, took it apart, managed to take half a winding off of each leg off the voice coil. So that one wound off to there, that one wound off to there. Obviously that's changed the polarity, so I'll be mindful of that when it goes back together. But yeah, we fixed that, so that's good. So yeah. Right, so before sanding, I managed to get a coat of satin on the back. So I'll give that another coat, and then I can flatten off the front and get a coat on that. Then sand off the top and bottom and sides, and then oil up. And then we should be reassembling, hopefully. Clean and tidy. Right, let's take a look at this. Yep, you can see that all right, that's good. Okay, so first thing I want to do is get this badge off. Right, it feels like there's a screw or something in there. Nope, it's just push fitted in there. Celestion. So I've been keeping all the other badges ready to go back on again, like the Ditton 332 badge that goes on the front. So they'll get a nice clean up. Right, so to get this off, I think it's just glued on there. Yeah. It's going to be fun. I expect it'll take half the chipboard with it as well. Maybe not. I think if I carefully peel it off, yeah, it's just a piece of double-sided tape then. Cool. It's not the nicest stuff in the world, is it? Right, okay. Ouch. Yep, so we're okay on the edges. So there's two insert points there for the badges. Yep, alright, that's not so bad. Right. We're going to need a reasonable margin around this. Okay. It's a bit annoying sometimes with speaker cloth. Sometimes it's not particularly well packaged, wrapped up, so it's, you often get it with creases and things in it, and sometimes you have to iron it, which is bloody annoying. So that's one piece. Yeah, I don't want to use it down here, that's full of creases and stuff. It's annoying. Right. So yeah, still got some reasonable pieces I can use on other speakers. In fact, I've probably got enough there to do a pair of 44s if I wanted to. That sort of size, so that's good. So I know I keep saying it, but just be mindful of the grain of the material. I don't mind cutting a bigger margin of material. I don't mind wasting a bit to get it right. Okay, that looks pretty good. As always, I try and do a cross first. Told you I needed more staples. So I'm using 8mm staples, not 6 in this, because the chipboard is obviously softer than ply. So I can get a longer staple in it to hold it properly. Alright, let's pull that in a bit. There we go. Then what I'll do is pull the bottom pull the top, and that should be it stretched. So then I've just got to work from the centre out and do it that way. Just have a look at the grain. Yeah, not bad. So, and what I tend to do is just slowly work around the cloth, pulling it out of shape on one side and then pulling it back into shape the other. I probably want to build up a little bit of slack for the corners as well. I'm going to have to stretch it around these corners. So kind of like that. Really, once you've done that bit, you're just stapling. It's not too bad. Okay, see how that's looking. Yep, grain's not bad. I'm going to have to be careful around the sides because you're going to see the sides as well on this. So I think what I'll do is work my way up into these corners first, then I can stretch the corners round. It's going to be fun. They're quite an unusually thick cover on these. Okay, and that's already there, so that's worked quite well. Okay, that corner's pretty good. Yep. That's all right. So any dust and crap that's on there, compressed air gets that off. Right, that's okay. That is okay. Alexa, what's the time?
The time is 2:10 p.m.
2:10 p.m. Right, so just to tidy up the stapled edge, because it's quite tricky to keep it neat really, I find. I'm just going over it with some banding. So I can pull this nice and tight. And get it stapled in there nicely. As you can see, it covers all that up very nicely. Nice. Right, so that's the front baffle all masked up, ready for a couple of coats of black satin. So yeah, I've sanded back the wood now as best I can on this one. So yeah, time to get a few coats of satin black on the front. Excellent, coming together. So I'm doing this with 240 grit, something nice and yeah, nice and fine. Right, okay, straighten this up a bit. Right, time to put these back together. Front baffles are sprayed, they're all sanded, so we need to get the crossovers in, connected to the binding posts, and yeah, lardy-dardy, all good in the hood. So let's get the old iron heating up. One nice new crossover board. So before I do this, I just want to solder on my tags for the binding posts, which I haven't done as yet. There we go, those ones. Right, so crossover board with lovely new components on. Back in. Right, first things first, let's get our mid-range, get our cables crudely where they're going, right? Tweeter, let's get that up there. Okay, good. That's our woofer. Right, okay. Yeah, these are turning out all right actually. I've been quite lucky with how far back I could sand the veneer. A couple of places it's very close to going through, but yeah, I think we've done all right really. Right, get the crossover screwed in. Yeah, I thought I was going to have quite an interesting video coming up on a pair of LS35As that someone, this guy seems to make them, I think, and then sells them. I don't know how he advertises them, but the pair that was sent to me, yeah, awful. The front baffle is really bad. The B110 woofer in there is sitting in an oval hole off centre. Cabinet, one of the cabinets is actually skewed, so the sides aren't square. Just the router work where they've recessed in the front baffle, yeah, it's all over the shop. But they're just too bad. I said to the client I need to remake a new baffle for them, as well as doing all the crossover work. They've got the crossover from Wilmslow Audio. I think they probably were a kit event at one point, the drivers that is, with the T27 tweeter, but the cabinets this guy has made, and they're awful. They really are. It's a shame. And the covers, I don't know what fabric has been used. It's like this plastic stuff. So yeah, bit of a shame. That could have been quite an interesting video, but really, as I agreed with the client, you know, I'm basically having to start from scratch and design a crossover and build you a speaker. I mean, I guess he could have purchased, like from Falcon, the 35A crossovers, like a silver one or something, but yeah, it's just financially not worth it. Right, connect up the fuse carrier. We are still keeping that in. That's it. Right, okay, good. Right, so let's get the phone back in there. In the mid-range we've got a big chunk that goes in first, like so. And then we have this bit that goes sort of round like that. So the mid-range is the driver, the first driver I want to reconnect, because once that's reconnected I can then seal where the cable comes through the mid-range enclosure. Right, let's cut these off. Wire strippers, gotta love them. so there's our mid-range, which is looking pretty good. So we had push fit connectors on here originally, which obviously we're not using. We are soldering direct. So that's our positive. Yep. So let's build up a bit of solder on this. Right. Yep, so that's nicely on there. Okay, so I want to leave a little bit of slack in there, not too much. Make sure our Celestion badge is down the bottom. Just twist those up a bit. Right. It's easy to catch the foam and push it down, so we don't want to do that. Right, there we go. Yeah, so I don't think these have turned into a bad speaker really. I haven't oiled this yet, I'll do that right at the end. Last job. Okay, good. Right, let's do the tweeter next. That's a tight fit, but it's in. Right, one thing I'm not sure about with the tweeters is the polarity. There is no markings that I can see on the back of them, so I'm not going to tighten this down particularly well, because when I fire my measurements at them, if I see a big suck out in the response between the tweeter and mid, then I know the polarity is wrong, so I can swap that round. I just want to seal up that mid enclosure. A load of sauce all over that. There we go. Lovely jubbly. Right, so now that the tweeter's in, we need to get this piece of foam under there. So scrunch that right up. It goes. Okay, so that big piece is up here, and then we have this bit that wraps around. so. And then we have this big bit here which goes over the crossover like so. Okay, and then our woofer goes in there. Right, I just had to polarity test this because the sticker that tells you what's positive and what's negative, the little red sticker that's on there has come off. So that's a bit annoying, but there we go. I now know. Just the battery test. You have the positive of the battery on the positive of the speaker, the comb will push forward. Just use a 1.5 volt battery, don't use anything bigger. If it pulls in, then the polarity is the wrong way around. Simples. So I've marked it on there as well. Bit of tissue under there because I don't want to get solder on the suspension or anything. Fortunately, you can't do that sort of test with a tweeter. A, you'll probably pop it, and B, you won't see the diaphragm move anyway. It's too small. So yeah, measuring is really the only way to do that. Right, simple as that, all nicely soldered up. So, remembering the Celestion badge down the bottom again. Like I said earlier, it's a bit annoying that, because if you want to rotate the driver, because obviously these are getting on a bit, just to eliminate any cone sag, you can't do that. Very nice. So I'll assemble the other one, and then they're both going to get measured, and if the polarity is wrong on those tweeters I can sort that out as well. Like I say, there's no markings on them. There might have been, but they've probably come off, I don't know. I've looked at them both and there's nothing there. Mind you, the other tweeter I've mucked around with a little bit, so it's probably, if there was a marking on there, it might not be right anyway. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Cool. Right, that one's back together. Just need to put the badge in. Lovely. Right, super duper. Okay, there we go. Also, if I can do this carefully, I've put new binding posts on the back as well. I need to check that fuse, so negative, positive, and put the serial number badge on as well. Right, I'm sure I've got the right fuses in there. Well, I'm reassembling this speaker. I never noticed that before. Look at that burn mark in the sound deadening that was against the crossover. So that was out of the one where we had the burnt out 1.5 microfarad cap. So I've just packed away most of the stuff in here now, but one thing I like to do is just listen to the bass. So that's 63 Hertz. Go down 1/3 of an octave. So that's 50 Hertz. Still really good output to my ears. 40 Hertz. Yeah, it's rolling off a bit there. That's 31, and I can still hear that. It's pushing on my ears. So that is really good. I'm down to 25 there. I can see the comb moving, but I can't really hear that. But yeah, that's actually really good. These I've just played some music through them as I do. I'm going to set them up in the lounge and have a good listen to them. But yeah, very pleased.